Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com. Today we're going to make coffee cake muffins, or you could call them streusel muffins, and this is what they look like. This muffin is soft, it's fluffy, it has a nice vanilla flavor, and then we have a layer of streusel running through the muffins and on top. So the first thing that you will need to do is to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 180 degrees Celsius. And then you will need a 12-cup muffin pan. Now you can line your muffin cups with paper liners. You could butter the muffin cups, or what I'm going to do is just spray them with one of these non-stick sprays. Okay. And if you're using the non-stick spray, what I like to do, because you get spray on top, is just to wipe it off with a paper towel. Okay, so now, the first thing we'll do is the streusel. So I'm just going to do this by hand. In a bowl, I have a half a cup, 65 grams of all-purpose flour. You may know that as plain flour. To that, I'm going to add a half a cup of 100 grams of, I'm using the dark brown sugar today. It's got more flavor, but you know, you could use light brown sugar if that's all you have in the house. And then I'm going to add 3/4 of a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. And I'm just going to mix that together. Use a fork, spatula, your fingers. You want to make sure, brown sugar tends to have lumps, so we just want to get rid of those. And then you will also need 4 tablespoons, 55 grams of butter. I'm using unsalted butter here. You could use salted. And you want it at room temperature. And I've cut it into little pieces because what we're going to do, as soon as I finish this, is we're going to add it in. And we want to make coarse crumbs with this. I'm using a pastry blender. You could use a fork, you could use your fingers. We just want to cut the butter into the flour mixture until we have coarse crumbs. Pretty simple. Hey, that looks pretty good. Now this is something you could do ahead. I mean, you could even do it the day before and then just cover it. Okay. So this is what you're looking for, just like streusel. So now, for our batter. If you have a stand mixer, like I have here, use your paddle attachment. You could use a hand mixer as well. And the first thing you will need is a half a cup, 113 grams of butter. Have your butter at room temperature. I'm using unsalted. I prefer the flavor, plus I like to control the amount of salt in my recipe. But if you have a favorite salted butter, then you could use that. So I'm just going to beat this on medium speed just until it's nice and smooth. Okay. And whenever you're making any kind of batter, you know, periodically stop and scrape down the sides and the bottom of your bowl to make sure everything gets mixed together. It tends to stick on the bottom. So next what you need is 3/4 of a cup, 150 grams of granulated white sugar. And this, I am flavoring this with vanilla, so I'm going to add it right now. 1 teaspoon, 4 grams of pure vanilla extract. And I'm going to beat this on medium-high speed, probably 3-4 minutes. That way everything will get mixed together, plus we get some air into this mixture, so our muffins will be nice and light and fluffy. Okay, so you see, nice and fluffy. Let's give that a scrape. And now we're going to add 2 large eggs, which would be 100 grams, one at a time. And have your eggs at room temperature. Add one, beat that in, and then I will add the second one. That looks good. So now for our dry ingredients, in a separate bowl, I have 1 3/4 cups, which is 225 grams of all-purpose flour. You may know that as plain flour. To that, I'm going to add 1 1/4 teaspoons, 5 grams of baking powder, and 1/2 teaspoon, 2 grams of baking soda, and just 1/4 teaspoon, 1 gram of salt. So if you use salted butter, I would just leave out that salt. And then I'm just using a whisk to mix all that together. You want to make sure that baking soda, baking powder, and salt are all mixed into the flour. You could sift it if you want to, or just use a fork. So what I'm going to do is add the flour to our batter in 3 additions, alternate that with 3/4 of a cup, which is 180 milliliters, or if you want to weigh it, 180 grams. I'm using a full fat sour cream, have it at room temperature. You could use reduced fat if you want to cut that fat down a little. I wouldn't use the fat-free. Or if you don't want to use sour cream, you could use a plain yogurt. So I'm just going to add, about 1/3. I'm just going to eyeball that. And beat that in slow speed. You don't want the flour coming up. Okay, then add about 1/2 of the sour cream or yogurt, whichever. Both are very good. A little more flour. Of our sour cream. This is going to add that nice rich flavor to our muffins. Don't want to waste. And lastly, the rest of the flour. Okay, it's our batter. So clean up a little here. So we have our streusel and our batter. A little flour on the sides. Make sure you just fold that in with your spatula. Okay, so now, my tools here, my pan. So the first thing we're going to do, because we're going to alternate batter, streusel, batter, streusel. So we're going to use about 1/2 of this batter to fill up the cups, which will be about a heaping tablespoon. If you wanted to weigh it, it would be about 30 grams. Actually, I have an ice cream scoop that's just a touch over a tablespoon, which makes it easy. So just put into the center of each. Okay, our last one. So if you're using an ice cream scoop like this, it's kind of in a mound. What you want to do is just kind of flatten that out so it fills the whole muffin cup. Okay, so now for the streusel. which I meant to say, if you want to add a little finely chopped nuts to this streusel, you could go ahead and do that. So what we're going to put is like a scant tablespoon, which would be, if you want to measure it or weigh it, about 8 grams. So then, I'm just using a tablespoon. Just put that top. Okay, and our last one of that. And then I'm just going to repeat it. Put the nice heaping tablespoon of the batter, spread that out. Okay, so I got my last one here. A little extra. And spread that out. This is the fussy part. Patience is needed. Okay. And then we're going to put another tablespoon of the streusel on top. And then once you put the streusel, just press it down a little, because we don't want all the streusel to fall off as they rise. So. And our last one, a little extra. So now, everyone's oven is a little different. So, but I would say around 20 minutes, 20, 22. You know, when I say 20 though, I would check like, you know, maybe at 18, because you never know if your oven may be running a little hot. So what you're looking for, they will rise. If you press the top, it will kind of spring back. And the best thing I find with this kind of muffins cakes is to take a toothpick and insert it into the center, and it should come out just clean. So around 20 minutes. And I do like to rotate my muffin pan front to back about halfway through baking. So our coffee cake muffins are done. Don't they look nice? So they rise, and as you can see, kind of bounce back. And then if you take a toothpick, insert it in the center, it'll come out clean. So I put the muffin pan on a wire rack. I'm going to let them cool 10, maybe 15 minutes. And then when we come back, we will take them out of the pan. So to take our muffins out of the pan, you want to make sure that they're not sticking, especially at the top. So just take your spatula, and you don't want to leave half of your muffin in the pan, which can happen. So there we have it. Oh, so now let's try one. I'll cut it open. They're still a little warm, which I like. So there you have it. Isn't that nice with that vein, I guess you could call it, of streusel in the center? So let's try some. I always like the combination. I mean, the actual muffin is very good on its own, and you could just use that as a base recipe. But when you combine it with the graininess of a streusel, it just takes it to a whole nother level. And I like how we put not just on top, I mean, you could just put it on top. It would be a little less fussy to put it in the pan, but I think it's worth the extra effort to put that in the center as well, so you get kind of a double dose. And, you know, they're good warm, they're good at room temperature, they're good cold anytime, and of course, they're perfect with a cup of coffee. So try these, and until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of JoyBaking.com.